think what we're going to do first is we're going to start off. Please for everybody except Dan is on my staff, so I know what you do, but these folks may not. So just briefly introduce yourself and just maybe give 1 or 2 sentences on the things that you're working on that might cue some questions. So Mike, we'll start with you.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Mike Weissman, the Chief Data Officer, as the gigantic photo says behind me. My focus is obviously on data, but at the enterprise level, I'll talk about information sharing, data sharing across the department. The biggest part that we're looking for is to connect and enable mission and data usage through all the different mission areas, whether that's geospatial or even records management, what have you, data inventory, all the different areas of the department, making sure folks are connecting, using what we have, looking inward, and reutilizing that to best enhance our mission operations. Thanks for having me today.
Dave Larrimore, DHS Chief Technology Officer. My major roles involve oversight of the 300 plus acquisition programs totaling to over $10 billion a year of IT spend, which has been a phenomenal opportunity, and just really proud of that. Lately, I've been all AI all the time, so I'm also assisting Eric Heisen, the Chief AI Officer of the department, stand up ultimately the Office of the Chief AI Officer, right? So there's a lot of executive orders and OMB memos, and so I'm at the forefront of helping to make sure that we are using AI responsibly, safely, and securely at DHS.
All right, Chris Granger, I'm the Executive Director for IT Operations. I kind of wear 2 hats at headquarters. One is a service delivery hat, where we provide day-to-day capability to the headquarters and the management component. I also have the responsibility of the Network Operations Security Center, so my staff works with the other components on incidents and things like that. I also have several other programs on my portfolio, like DHS CDM. I have the classified networks, the Homeland Security, Secure Network. We have all these acronyms. Like when I was in the Marine Corps, we put MC in front of everything, and we put H in front of everything here at DHS. So, yeah, that's my function.
All right. My name is Reshea Deloatch. I'm the Executive Director for Solutions Development Directorate. I have an enterprise portfolio of solutions, including financial systems, the DHS Enterprise Cloud, identity systems as well. And I really work with most of our customers to make sure that whether we need management internal solutions or component solutions or enterprise solutions, I serve all those needs.
And I am Dan Carroll, Field CTO for Dell Technologies Federal. We work with federal and DoD organizations to understand the challenges they're facing at what we call their mission edge, where their work touches people. Right? And we're currently working extensively with organizations to understand how they can leverage the transformative nature of the next generation of AI.
Great. So I think we can go to questions anytime. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll run. Oh, we have one right over here. So, otherwise, I will ask you questions. I know a few of you in the audience, so I'll call you out.
Well, Semper Paratus, always ready.
Thank you.
And congratulations on being the ancient albatross.
Yes.
Yes, it's a high honor.
Thank you.
So I was just texting Luke, and I told him he missed the biggest question. What are y'all's barriers to achieving the goals that have been set by S1, Eric, and the goals that you all have individually?
Great question. So I know they all have different barriers. So we'll just go down the line and start with Mike. So first of all, I want to say that the data sharing piece is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly specific to the data set. It's incredibly specific to the personalities, the organization. And so I don't want to speak for your barrier, but I think that's probably pretty close. So maybe if you could expand on that.
Sure.
Or something else.
Sure. Okay. Great question. Thank you for that. I will expand on that in terms of, I'll take it as knowledge sharing. I think a lot of the times the biggest barrier we've found is going out in the field, and we have some folks out in the field now on a very kind of an experimental knowledge sharing experiment, is where individuals, whether it be IT, program management, or even operators, do not know what we have. And even when they know what we have, they're not necessarily sure how to utilize it or know how to connect it to another data set or to another system and how that would benefit a law enforcement outcome. And that, to me, is our biggest barrier when it comes to the ever-changing threat environment or managing transnational crime. When that is always evolving and always changing, being able to adapt and change at that pace with the size and scope of our data is probably my biggest barrier.
Yeah, we see a lot of people kind of trying to go it on their own, right?
Yeah, all the time.
Yep, and so we try to put down that shadow IT and see if we can do something enterprise. So Dave.
I'll try and be quick. For me, it's hearts and minds. When we talk about AI in the department or any organization, it is as polarizing as modern politics, and we do our best to listen to all sides, right? There are a lot of individuals, a lot of groups that are not necessarily against AI, but don't understand it. And we owe them just as much time and energy on understanding what their concerns are and bringing that to how we implement AI responsibly, just as much as those individuals that are super excited to use the next model that comes out on Hugging Face. So, hearts and minds.
Yeah, from my perspective, it's really about resources and how I use the resources that I have to be able to provide more efficient, more effective services. In a resource challenge environment, you have to have to do more with less. So that's really the biggest challenge. I'm the gorilla in the room, right? So I have the most people, the most budget. So it's a target in some cases, but yeah, that's my challenge.
I'd say security. Infiltrators, I mean, we're only as good as our last release, and making sure that we're constantly upgrading the software on all of these systems. So just constantly maintaining them and trying to make sure we modernize them so that we can beat a lot of these security risks.
I love sitting at this end because I get to hear all their answers and then talk how I'm going to solve them from the industry perspective. It's great. So what's great about some of the things that they brought up is that AI did not start a year ago with ChatGPT or 18 months ago with ChatGPT. Legacy AI solutions like federated learning are going to help with some of those compartmentalization problems. It's a way to keep your data in place, do the analytics where that data exists, and only move the inferences up. Cuts way down on the security concerns, cuts way down on the comms requirements, which are very sensitive in a lot of areas. So it's using a lot of what we already know to advance what I'd say is the next generation of AI is going to be critical and help with some of the knowledge management problems too, right? So that capability to provide a learning environment through what I say is digital assistance in the hand, right? So where you have a capability to leverage all of your organization's knowledge in the hands of the people at the edge to be able to work those systems is going to be incredible.
Great, thanks, Dan. Sir.
Hi, Bill Pratt, Rely Group.
Hey, stranger.
Bill Pratt. So, as we all found out, thank you. As we all found out, unsurprisingly, we're in a CR, which has been the way we've operated for several years. And so I know you've all taken your budget requests to Eric and to Chris and got those approved at some level, and now not going to get anything until perhaps December. So can you tell us how, and of course for the industry now, what your plan is over the next couple of months and then into the early part of 25 to take care of, as Chris was saying, this already problem of not having enough resources? Thanks.
Mike, let's start with you again.
Sure.
Next time we'll go to the back.
Okay. All right. I will go quickly. All right. Good question, Bill. Thanks. Good to see you again. The plan is, as always, built way ahead of time, right? We're not trying to pivot or react on a dime. Well, I'm looking at the enterprise. I'm looking at the full scope of that. We're trying to plan ahead. we know when we know when the spending bills are going to expire. We know when this is going to happen. I cannot predict the future at all, but we have to plan for the future. So the projects and what we're doing with data sharing, these are massive systems, as you're well aware too as well. These are massive systems. We cannot make changes overnight. So for me, that is part of the calculus to understand that while we are doing these projects and while we are doing that, we need to plan for that because the bad actors out there, they're not taking a break. They are not going to care when the CR passes. They're not going to care for any of that. So we need to plan for that. So for me, that is just all part of the whole planning phase.
Right. So, from my perspective, a CR doesn't mean we have no money, right? We're operating at a FY24 level. We and our partnership with one of our peers here, Bob Dorr, who's not here, works diligently to essentially sustain operations for critical contracts, for critical systems, for national security systems, et cetera, right? Those will continue to run, and we do our best to make sure that we are continuing to support our mission, right? And that will continue to be, even in a CR, as we have proven for the last decade of constant CRs. On the AI side of the world, which sort of kind of has been constantly growing, what I see impacting from a CR perspective, not as much this year, right? So a lot of the planning that we did around AI is really about FY26 and beyond. So this year we are using it as an opportunity to sort of look at how we are currently dealing with implementing AI projects. We're finishing implementing the AI Executive Order 14110, finishing implementing the M2410 OMB memo. And then as we look towards the future, that's where we're really hoping for the ability to sort of really grow and explore with AI.
Yeah, so from my perspective, it's working with all of you as we go in, because this is going to affect you. So, you're only going to get maybe 1 month payments at a time, right? So I appreciate, the vendors working with us. They know I only get so much money at so much time. So it's a matter of just kind of juggling those things. It's become a way of life now. So unfortunately, that's just what we do. So we knew it was going to be a CR, and we know the drill. This is it ended in May this year. So, you have, in our world, procurement folks are back there, but we have, 30 days to get all your PRs in. And so it's become a way of life. So if you're not planning for that, then you're not going to be able to live in this world. So it's really just understand the next bill. And, unfortunately, you can't float the checks, but you got to stay out of that.
Yeah, I'll tag on to that. Definitely the pivot of resources, because we might think that we're working with civil rights, civil liberties on a case management system, but now that they have to transition some level of their objectives based on the money that they thought that they were getting that they might not get, then now we have to pivot resources that we already have had on contract to different solutions. So we are really heavily reliant on the challenge of being able to pivot resources, but our vendors have been working really well with us on that.
And what I would say is, when I'm talking with organizations, I highly encourage collaboration. The funds are limited, but the funds you have coming in, how can you advance more missions with those funds, right? Make sure if you have what I'd say is funds to do some sort of systems replacement, are you looking at the zero trust requirements? Are you looking at your future AI goals? Are you looking at your multi-cloud edge goals? And what I'd say is, can you make an investment that helps the bigger organization with your small investment? And it's amazing sometimes how that can come together to help the wider enterprise.
Yeah, I think Mike really kind of right out of the gate mentioned we're planning years out in advance, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that we were going to go into a CR during an election year, that we will probably see a budget sometime after January 20th. So we've already been planning for those things. So it's just how do you execute your programs, knowing that these things are going to happen, and then how do you make adjustments as things change over time? And so I think that's what our overall approach is. So thanks for the question. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, this is Dale Partridge with Mentech, used to be in DHS. Nice to see you, Chris.
Hi, Dale.
But the question is, and it kind of touches with some of the answers or some of the comments you meant there, as the drive is to go more agile, and of course AI drives things faster and faster. How do you balance that against, again, the planning, programming, budgeting, execution system? Because that's a 2+ years out that where you've got a budget or plan for that funding for those programs.
Yeah, I'm going to skip Mike and ask Dave to talk a little bit about that, because that's one of his roles as the CTO, is to kind of shepherd through the things through the acquisition process. And so we've done a lot of great things in that area, because we have now some leaders that understand iterative development and modernized software delivery. And so, Dave, if you could take a shot at that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. First and foremost, late last year, Eric Heisen published the FY 25 to 28 IT strategic plan. There's, most of us have had our equities included there. 24 to 28? Okay, or FY 24, which means we're already starting to do it, which is great. And, there's a section in there related to IT modernization. And so, if you're sort of curious about what the big picture plan is or strategy for DHS, like that's literally the leaders are moving towards that plan. One of the #1 sort of lessons learned that we've had in our evolutions of AI is that AI is ultimately information technology. And if an organization does not have a mature IT delivery practice, they will ultimately struggle with delivery of AI and machine learning. So a lot of what we're really trying to do here is, as we are identifying opportunities for AI, we're also identifying opportunities for moving forward with that plan for IT modernization, moving towards enterprise services, bringing in experienced sort of IT delivery federal resources, moving away from big bang and having more agile iterative delivery, leveraging SecDevOps and partnership with customer experience to ensure that what we're delivering is actually providing the results we intend. And AI is no different there, right? So good IT, be a strong IT delivery organization, and that will ultimately be the foundation for anything AI.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are conditioned in Congress and in the acquisition community to kind of understanding milestones, and that they don't really like the idea of unlimited scope and things like that. And so, if you show them a couple times on this is what iterative software delivery really is, it's not about unlimited scope, then we're seeing some really good response from that. Reshea, I don't know if you wanted to add a little bit from your perspective, from an SDD perspective.
Yep, and I'll pull on CDP a little bit because I had a long time there as well. But iterative development, you would think that it would be more commonplace by now, but it still isn't. And I don't know if that's more indicative of just the vendor community, industry, and the ability to actually, when it comes to software that is a bit more custom or custom configured, the ability to at least have functionality released in iterations. And I just think that we struggle with that a bit. I've seen that with more custom developed apps where there's a little bit more flexibility, but we've come a long road from Java apps and those types of things. We're more SaaS than anything. So I'm hoping that AI and other measures like that and tools will help us release solutions in a more iterative manner. But I do really think that we need industry's help with that.
Great. Yes. Tom.
Just one to tie together. All of us in industry would appreciate the help. We know you've been through the CR 11 of the last 14 years. So you've gotten that drilled down pretty well. You know how to sustain the O&M, keep the projects going, that you really keep the lights on. The thing that would help us in industry is just knowing that you've got an election year and then an inaugural year and things are a little bumpy and you might get a CR in January, you might get it in April. One that helps us is we plan our bid and proposal money, B&P money. And the sooner that you get that budget, if you also review your APFS of what you're going to be putting out, especially if it's in the DME, the new project money, or targets, AI, anything like that. If you reprogram your APFS, update it, clean it up, that will help all of us in industry prepare to compete and bid for those projects that you really need. And if the APFS stays old through an inaugural year, we struggle. It's hard for us to convince our leadership of what to bid and what's a priority unless we work together through this. So that's the ask, is clean it up as soon as you get through the CR, look ahead, and it will help all of us work better together.
Yeah, great. No, thanks for that feedback. We appreciate that. We like hearing from you. Any other questions out there? A whole bunch.
Hi, Ashley Nichols from Highlight Technologies. And around acquisitions, I think my question is really around, we've seen a lot of delays in our big GWACs that DHS even has historically used, a lot of protests that slow down the procurement process. I know there's a lot of DHS-specific smaller vehicles coming out, but I'm interested in how you are using or what acquisition levers you're using to keep up with the pace of technology. You know, SIBRs, OTAs, all of this.
That's the next panel, isn't it?
Huh?
Not to cut you off, but I think your procurement folks are next, but continue with the question.
Well, I'm interested from the program side too,
no, that's
like
great.
how you guys engage and what levers you pull to get what you need.
I don't know who to go to on that.
I can go for it, Chris.
Well, I mean, we use the vehicles that are out there, right? It's easier from my perspective to use the GWACs that are out there. You know, some of the protests, that hurts us all. We had 256 days of protests, I believe, on our EAS contract. And some of the contracts we expect to be protested, so that's a challenge. I'd ask industry to kind of take a look at that. And there's some mistakes, and I don't want to, bash our procurement folks, but there's some mistakes that we make on the government side as well that causes those challenges. But using the vehicles that are out there, the NASA SUPs, we use FedSim for two big contracts that we use, and they've done a great job for us. So does our procurement folks.
Mike?
Yeah, so for my side of the house, I think where we've seen the difficulty is trying to find the hyper-specific subject matter expert that toes the line between traditional DoD style subject matter expert and a non-DoD style expert. I've been out on a few industry trips recently, and the response is very, very DoD style contracting vehicles, and taking the SIBR route where things in the data world get very, very complicated with the different, then we get into the data rights conversation, which is, I could probably have a whole panel on data rights, which I don't want to start up right now. But I do think we do explore, and in my side of the house, apologies, is the looking for that kind of availability of that subject matter expert across the board and being able to bring in that wide scope of resources, because I do have to support the entire 9 operating law enforcement components, including the Coast Guard, and that's where the complexity comes in, at least for mine, from a contracting standpoint. And that's where I do have to kind of surf the aisle on all the vehicles we have, and that's where the complexities are found. So, but I'll leave the procurement folks to answer the rest of that. Thanks.
Okay. Oh, great. Thanks for that. And I saw some other hands up. Ma'am?
Thanks. Mojgan Pedrim, ECS. There's a lot of talk about AI, ethical AI and responsible AI, and we're going toward using AI and generative AI a lot more. Just wanted to know what kind of policies DHS is putting in place to enforce that, regarding data governance or anything from related to that, again, as we're approaching the next few years and growing of it. Thank you.
You're in luck because Mr. AI is here.
That's a softball.
Dave Larrimore.
He's going to hit that one out of the park.
My goodness. How much time do we have?
He lives and breathes this. He goes all day, all night.
Last year, DHS, and listen, the general counsel folks said we couldn't say we were the first, but we were most certainly one of the first to actually put out a comprehensive program for the use of commercial generative AI tools. We've shared that publicly, and we know some other organizations have leveraged it. We have, for a year, allowed select employees or eligible employees to use approved commercial generative AI tools, right? And we've got 4 or 5 of those tools have been Approve Now. They have to take training that we have designed and implemented, compliance training. They have to sign a rules of behavior with their supervisor. We have very, very strong lines around privacy, around the types of information you can put in there, the types of things you can do in there, right? You cannot use the generative AI tools for, law enforcement decision-making or, benefits adjudication. It is, and so that's where we started, right? And that's the first layer of our layer cake of generative AI. Secondly, earlier this year, we announced our generative AI pilot. So we're actually taking our first step into integrating generative AI into mission use cases. USCIS has an incredible pilot that they're running around using generative AI for training asylum officers, right? So where it used to be, or it continues to be, actual in-person interviewers and actors, we now have the ability to emulate individuals using generative AI so that those trainees can actually use this as another way to train. On the FEMA side, which is we're really excited because it's our sort of like first external use case. For those of you who are aware, FEMA and FEMA grants, they have a process around resiliency grants. And in order for a locality to be eligible for a grant, they have to complete a very, very long form, prescriptive, subjective plan. Very, very long document that takes experts that some localities don't have. So we're looking at using generative AI to assist state, local, tribal organizations to actually create those plans so they can get access to the resiliency grants they need. Last but not least, we're also looking into the law enforcement use of generative AI to help law enforcement officers summarize information in their case files. We're also looking at it from a semantic search perspective. So we have a lot of officers that sort of perceive law enforcement engagement situations differently. One officer may say a red truck, another officer may say a Toyota Tacoma, et cetera. And so prior to generative AI, we didn't really have that strong connective tissue of our language so that those two reports may be related to the same vehicle. So using generative AI and all of that vector databases, et cetera, we actually have the ability to get that technology into the hands of investigators to assist them, to be a tool amongst their toolbox. That's the second layer of the cake, and I'll try to be fast, I promise. The third layer of the cake is sort of general purpose AI, right? So when we start talking about what would it take for DHS to take FOUO information and be able to use generative AI across a broad set of use cases. So we're currently working on sort of getting feedback on the last year of individuals who have been opted into our commercial generative AI tool policy, and we're looking at sort of what would it take for DHS to have a general purpose generative AI solution. And it's really more of a discussion with civil rights and civil liberties, with the privacy community to understand sort of like how would we even look at monitoring that environment without, at the same time, also monitoring our employees, right? That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to provide a tool for them to be effective in their job, but we also want to understand if that technology is helping them and actually helping to solve a problem. The idea is if we can solve those three unique cases, that handles a lot of things we need to understand about sort of technology and vendors and access. It handles a lot of things we need to understand around rules of behavior with employees and how to implement that effectively. It also goes into understanding the government-friendly terms of service, right? A lot of these AI companies have very, very unique terms of service on how third parties use their models. So we're trying to understand sort of how does that impact our operations and how we interact with these tools. And I'm done, I swear.
Thanks. Thanks, Dave. Another question. Sir.
Thank you. Glenn Fusen from LexisNexis. Just had a question on how is best for us to engage with you in this collaborative environment to talk about our technology. So I mean, we can come in and we can give a demo, but that's not really the engagement and collaboration that I think that we need to be having at this level to really see how we can help advance your priorities and what we can be developing. So what's the best way to engage with you?
Talk about that. Maybe Chris Granger?
Well, yeah, Dave has an office that you can engage with. We haven't used it in a while. We haven't, I think because, your office is busy. I haven't, maybe I'm not paying attention. So there's a forum where you guys can come and brief come and brief us, and the XDs and my staff and our staffs will come and listen, and then we may engage with you separately if there's something we're interested in. I have, he's sitting there in the back, Dr. Mark Lucas does my future state technologies. We were just talking about a plan that he wrote, which is outstanding, and how we're going to look at vendors and really focus operationally, looking at the different vendors that we have and the capabilities out there, and kind of do some analysis on them, and then bake-offs at the end, and then we kind of score it and look across there. So he will be reaching out as we look at the various tool sets and cybersecurity stuff like that. So that's maybe us reaching to you, and then you to come to us.
Yeah, and just to add on, I think it's pretty effective. I don't discount how effective a demo is. Some of these things, I mean, we have so much on our plate. Maybe we haven't seen the technology that you're talking about. One thing that's probably not known openly within about DHS is we have a library community. Like, we have the DHS Enterprise Library, and it's electronic. We have some actual brick and mortar libraries across DHS as well. And there's a lot of licensing that comes with those products, and products that people need to utilize, and medical community that utilizes those libraries as well. So don't assume that we know about your product. And there's vehicles through CTO to help tell us that we know.
Yeah, I apologize. I was going to add on there as well. Collaboration with the federal government there's so many pathways to do it too. NIST has their Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. We've done a lot of great collaboration with that organization for things around hybrid cloud, around secure 5G, those type of capabilities. And then industry also has the capability, at least we do it a lot in the DoD with collaborative research and development agreements, where we'll come in and work with an organization, we'll figure out what is the mission outcome they're looking for, and then you build a whole plan and capability around that works both for that organization, but then can go wider from those learnings, right? Usually you come into it with an agreement that you want to share it across the government, right, to drive better practice. Because to the previous question too around AI and its adoption, practice standards are going to be critical. And there's still a lot of work being done in that area, but there's also a lot of standards that exist today around how information can be handled and things like that. Again, I'll point back to NIST, that need to be leveraged in a lot of the AI development going forward. So,
thanks, Dan.
OCIO vendor engagement at hq.dhs.gov is that group, and we handle all of those engagements. And can I do something that you're probably going to hate me for later? By a show of hands, would anyone, we used to do this back in the day in OCIO, and a lot of folks have reached out to me, would you be interested in a speed dating style demo session? Because, honestly, I was taking phone calls back here. I got phone calls all the time, bringing things together. Would actually anybody be interested in being a part of the solution here and being part of a session to bring your product, give you 15, 20 minutes to demonstrate it, give us exposure, and then let us decide sort of how we want to go from there by a show of hands, honestly?
Yeah. I don't hate you, I'm just going to assign it to you.
Well, we're in the middle of FY25 planning right now, so,
And fun fact, Dave, we've done that internally. We called it a demo expo, just in terms of products and solutions that we have internally that we want to make sure our community of developers and engineers get to see, just to inspire other developers what to do. So it's cool. Good idea.
I saw a hand over there, ma'am.
Yep. I think she's been waiting.
Hi, my name is Monica. I'm actually at USCIS. I have a question. I would say with my kids, every time you got a new toy, you had to get rid of a toy.
Yeah.
So on the other side of the AI, do you see any decommissioning? Do you see decreasing the technical stack with the AI? The other side of it is helping, improving, and faster, and da-da-da. What would be the other side of that coin?
Great. Does anybody want to take a shot at that? Dave?
I think the department, just like many other federal agencies, and there was recently, we are now getting tracked from a FITARA perspective, have not been consistent across the board or enterprise-wide on sort of taking advantage of the consumption-based aspect of the cloud. I think we are really, really good at using their cool, fun, sexy portals and logging in and spinning up new services and then creating credentials and giving folks access to them. But hitting that next level to where we can actually be more in control of sort of our consumption and use of the cloud to lower the cost of that cloud, like honestly, that's the only way we can get to that. We are moving towards a state where technology is becoming ubiquitous, and we are getting better at sort of tearing apart interfaces and backend databases to allow information sharing to be easier. But at the end of the day, if every single application requires a gigantic instance running full-time in the cloud, we are going to reach a theoretical limit on our ability to continue to grow.
Let me talk a little bit about that from an operational perspective. So do I want to get rid of people with automated intelligence machine learning? No, I want to be able to react quicker. I want cybersecurity tools that have that built in so that my limited staff, right, you never have enough staff to do what you need. I can automate some of those processes that I have people looking at now to be analytics, so I can focus on those that I really need to focus on. So that, from an operational perspective, that's what we're looking at. So maybe not getting rid of people, but being able to use the people that we have much more effectively using those technologies.
Great, thanks. More questions? Sir.
Pembroke Washington at Mantech. I'm going to ask you, each individual, this one question that my grandkids would ask me. It's a Disney question. If you had a magic wand and could make one thing happen, what would that thing happen for you? What would you execute? What solution you would have for each one of your organizations?
One thing?
All right, let's go with Dan first.
So I don't work at DHS, but I will say, like I mentioned a minute ago, the best thing that you can do is to use that magic wand. Don't think AI or anything else like that is a new journey. It's a continuing journey the federal government has been on for over the last 12 years at least, as it relates to modernization of IT, right? It's moving, they went from cloud first to now understanding multi-cloud and edge is critical. So your multi-cloud, edge, zero trust goals, they all have got to unify for you to get that magic solution that's going to come out the other side to provide you a more robust IT architecture and probably answer most of the responses here in my opinion.
Money. Give me the money. The only reason I say that, not as literal, but just meaning that there's so much that can be done. Dave mentioned the whole compute thing, and with the DHS Enterprise Cloud, I am concerned that as we continue to modernize, and especially regarding AI, it's going to cost more money to maintain, to even ramp up some of these solutions. So without money, how are we going to get there? So that would make me happy.
I think on that note, I would say I need maybe a magic bubble that I can put over top of all these great ideas from a cybersecurity perspective and prevent, our friends from the many countries that you could name that are after it all day long, right? So from an operation perspective, that's what I'm seeing all day long. So if I could put kind of like the Israelis have over that to protect us, that would be what I look for.
I would take care of all of our technical debt and make our technical debt go away. In my job, I own the technical reference manual, which has tens of thousands of records of all the technology that are approved across the department. We have technology that we should not even be looking at anymore, and we have a huge disparity on what people are using across the department. I have been trying my best to go forth on reducing duplication and increasing reuse of technologies, and ultimately the vast array of duplicative, overlapping, similar technologies that have been implemented components is the one thing that keeps me from doing all the AI stuff all the time, right? Because ultimately, to the question before about what do we get rid of, we need the organization moving to a place where we get all of those old technologies and old software licenses, the things that are causing, Hamont stress, the things that are make acquisition challenging. We need to make those not a big problem that take time and energy and blood and sweat, so that we can actually work on doing the new things that we need to do.
I'm going to answer with fully automated border security. Right now we have tools upon tools upon tools in law enforcement that are fantastic. They solve fantastically specific things. Some of them integrate well with others that we have. We have a ton of swivel chair problems still that we need to integrate. We have some tools that are new, that can't plug into other new tools. And my fantasy in this world would be that we can fully automate our border security problem that we are trying to solve with the technology so that it's streamlined. And then to piggyback on my somewhat parabolic fantasy would be to get rid of all the paper with there that we need. Because the amount of burden that we have on our law enforcement officers already, and what we're trying to do to reduce that burden by using technology shouldn't be made worse by them saying, okay, we're making it better with technology, now you need to learn 15 different tools, and here's 5 laptops, and you're gonna need to swivel between these 7 different screens to do it, but we'll eventually get you down to 1. That's my fantasy in that regard.
Yeah, I think for me, I once heard Admiral Gilday speak when he was the Chief of Naval Operations, and he said the one good thing about conflict that conflict brings is clarity of purpose. And so I would wave my magic wand and have that clarity of purpose without the conflict. Just, having an understanding of what our focus is, and the world is so complex that changes from day to day, and so that's the genesis of my stress, is kind of reacting to that, and just having the clarity of purpose, I think, would be welcome from my perspective. So we have time for one more question, so whoever gets their hand up fastest, or we take no questions. Oh, we got one right there.
Post-quantum computing, Matt Schneider with Palo Alto Networks. I know you guys are working very planning with NIST and collaborating with them. Are you pleased with where you guys are now on this post-quantum computing effort?
I'll be honest with you. So I think NIST does an amazing job, but just like has been shared up here, funding and resources are a challenge. So the biggest challenge I'm going to see with post-quantum computing is they've already developed the strategy. Those strategies, when vendors bring them to them, are going to have to go through certification. I have a concern that the funnel that they're dumping them in is the same one that they've been dumping the previous crypto validations in for FIPS and stuff like that, and getting them through quickly and effectively and properly to meet the industry and government needs is going to be, that's my concern. So I think the collaboration is great. Like, they've done a wonderful job bringing industry and government together to talk about the problem and divide the strategy, but how do you effectively get solutions through the pipe?
Anyone else?
I have a lot of opinions.
Yeah. Dave, why don't you just give us 30 seconds?
Give us an opinion
of your opinions.
I think post-quantum is a boogeyman in the future, and we are losing sight of today's cybersecurity problems, where we're already losing data and we don't have end-to-end encryption on all of our core services, and we haven't implemented zero trust everywhere. And so that is where we need to focus on. We know that post-quantum is going to be a significant problem from a defense perspective, from an adversarial perspective. It's also going to be a phenomenal opportunity from a mission perspective. But at the end of the day, we have a lot of cleanup work that we need to do before we can really devise a strategy that we can implement centrally, right? So we look at sort of IPv6 and how fun is IPv6?
Deloatch.
Right? So like that's still a thing, right? We're still figuring out sort of how to do that and adhere to those standards, which are, in my mind, sort of like core foundation for getting to a place where we can say that we truly confidently are prepared for post-quantum encryption.
Great, thank you for that. So I think time is up.